Hello, CIS27A. I'm re-recording this video for your lab 1 that we covered on Wednesday. I want to go through the demo with all the fixes that we had to illustrate to you how we would do lab 1, which is when we do forensic of an infected system from the network traffic. So in lab 1, we are going to use a virtual machine that is provided by me. And on this virtual machine, it simply is a Windows 10 operating system, and it has NetworkMiner and other software tools that are installed. So you are going to, for the class, you are going to copy the folder from an external hard drive. So on the left here, I have Toshiba drive. I plug it in and I double click it to open, and I would see this folder. From there, I can drag this folder onto my desktop, which I did here. Or I can right click copy and paste it onto my desktop. Now, some of you were not able to attend class and you were having issue coming to school. So what I did was for your lab, if you scroll down on the bottom, I have uploaded the virtual machine zip folder onto my Google Drive. Now, when you download this, it's going to take about half an hour or more, depending on your connection. And you have to unzip it or extract it at the end when you're done. Once it's unzipped, you have to use a VirtualBox application. So if you don't have this on your computer, whether it's Mac or PC, you will need to install the app in order to use the virtual machine inside the extracted or unzipped folder. Okay. So you can find this information now on your lab page. But if you are interested in learning more about what we did in class, we simply use an external hard drive, which is the Toshiba here, and I have the forensic image or the virtual machine on inside this folder. We drag it onto our desktop. Now to open it, you are going to use VirtualBox. Again, if you're at home, you have to install this app, but at school, they already have this installed. So I can simply search for VirtualBox, sorry, app, open that up. And here's my application right here. So I'll minimize this. And I'm in part A, right? We already did step 3. I'm going to go ahead and do step 4 now, where I open up the app. I'm going to click the green plus sign. And when this pop up, we can simply click that close. That simply is just the school message saying that I don't have access to their folder. But we're going to go to our desktop where we have the virtual machine copied and open up the folder there. And I simply select the .vbox file, and I will go ahead and click open. So now, before we start the machine, it's loaded to our playlist here. We're going to go to settings, which is in the next step, step 6, 7, and 8 we're going to do. So we're going to click on settings in VirtualBox settings, and we're going to click system. We want to verify that it is 8,000 megabyte or 8 gigabyte. And our processor tab, we're going to click on that and verify that it is 4. So we just did step 7 and 8. And the reason why is when you're doing forensic, you want a powerful system. So for a virtual machine, by default, it is only a dual core and 2,000 meg of RAM or 2 gig, which is a small fraction of 8. And in that case, when you're running forensic application or utilizing the system for intensive processing, it would take a long time. So we want to give it more juice, more processor, and more RAM. So once we have that, we're going to click OK here, and we're going to go ahead and click Start. So I just completed part A up to step 10. And it's going to load my VirtualBox, which contain Windows 10 and the appropriate application for our class. Now, in the next step, I'm going to log in, and to fix this problem, because there's no copy and paste enable, what we'll do is inside our virtual machine, we're going to download Chrome and access it to access our lab file and click on the link to download. That's the easiest way. Otherwise, you have to type in the URL, and that might not even be correct. You would be more prone to error. Okay. So while Windows is getting things ready for me, I can preview some of the next step. Now, once we're logged in and download our traffic capture file, so this is a sample file that I have obtained from a website for this particular exercise. So what we'll do is we will download the file from my Google Drive, and then we will inside our virtual machine, and we will use a tool called NetworkMiner, which is an open source tool to examine the network capture. So network capture is just basically a recording of all the network activities that happen at that moment in time. And NetworkMiner is going to allow us to evaluate the network traffic, who's talking, who's sending, who's downloading, who's communicating, to be able to determine if there's a malware, where it comes from, which system it impacts, which user account. Now, for our case, we want to take a look at the LAN segment, which is that portion of the network. And the domain is going to be pizza vendor domain controller. So this is going to be the DNS that got promoted to be the domain controller. And this is its IP address. And the domain is techsolutions.info. There's some address information. This is going to be the router address or the gateway. So think of it like if you're leaving your house, you have to go through the gate to get to the street. So your router is the appliance that's going to sit between your private and your public network, between your house and the public street. So the gateway is often the router, but not always. Most of the time you would see that the gateway is treated as a router, and it is normally with the .1 address. So 10.8.21.1, this is going to be our router. And then the broadcast, the address that's used to send or broadcast information to all the other system is going to be this. So once my Windows is ready for my virtual machine, I'll go ahead and click on it, and we're going to log in. And here's our desktop. And right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to attempt the next step here, where I'm going to download Google Chrome and download my network capture. So go ahead and open up Edge inside my virtual machine, and I can simply search for Google Chrome. Download. Once I'm here, we're going to go ahead and click download now. Just make sure we look at the proper page, and then we can download Chrome. I will click save and then run. So once that's saved, we're going to go ahead and click run. And then I can simply close the page. Now, when you click run, you're going to see the little blinking icon right here on your taskbar. That's your Windows firewall asking if it's okay. We're going to go ahead and click it and we're going to say yes. For the Google installer, it's okay. We can close the other page. So it's going to take a few seconds to install Chrome. Once I have Chrome on here, I will log on to Canvas account, download the lab so I can get access to the link. So once we're here, we're going to not sign in, but close that and it's going to pop up this page. We're going to click got it. It's just telling you that you can change privacy settings. So here's my Google page. I will go ahead and go to outlook.com. Why do I need to go to outlook.com? Because I'm going to log on to my school email and my Canvas through Outlook. It is a single sign-on, so. I'm going to stop share for a second because I'm going to go ahead and load my email and then access Canvas and then I will share again. So once you log onto your mail, you're going to click the all apps here and click Canvas. And that's how I'm able to get to my dashboard and go to our class. So why are we doing this? It's because we need to access the link on our lab. And it, if you type it, it could be very difficult for you. So we're going to go ahead and click lab 1. And we're going to download the document here, which is contain our lab instructions. That's the one we've been following. And then click download. So once I download it inside my virtual machine, I'm going to go ahead and click it. And then you can click that link, or you don't even have to download. You can also access it in the preview page inside your Canvas. But since I downloaded it, I'm going to go ahead and click that link. And it's going to say, do you want to open this link, right? What we can do is we can, instead of clicking it, we can copy it. And then we're going to go to Chrome and we're going to paste it. So once we're here, we're going to download, right? If you want to see this file, you can click on it. We want to download this file, right? The virtual machine that I have uploaded, it's located here, but you can click this and then click download. So we wanted to download the traffic file, not the zip one, because the zip one you have to extract. It does contain the same thing. You're gonna allow that. And so once it's downloaded, it's gonna be in our downloads folder, so we can check. I had downloaded it twice, so it's here. So now what we'll do is we can go ahead and close this page and close this now. So what I have done is I have completed the step 12. And then now I will proceed to part B. So in Windows machine, we're going to go ahead and click here and access our settings. So right click Windows we're gonna go ahead and click settings. And in settings, we can change the system settings, such as we're gonna go ahead and turn off the firewall. And we're gonna access the network capture. Sometime you would have to allow, when you're doing investigation like this, you need to use a virtual machine or an isolated machine because traffic will contain malware and you don't want that to impact your regular operational system or the system that you use on a daily basis. In addition, when we're using the virtual machine, we can remove it or we can put the proper protection on it. But when you're evaluating malware like this, sometimes we have to disable some of the security settings in order for us to see more of the behavior or how, where the malware comes from, what does it do, and so on. Okay. So what we'll do is we can search for the Windows settings. So you can go to network and internet or systems to do that. So I'm gonna go ahead and search for firewall and go to firewall network protection. For the domain on the network, we're gonna go ahead and click it and toggle it off. And we're gonna allow it. So say yes to Windows firewall prompt. And then we would go click back and we would change the same thing for the private. And then if you want, you can do public as well. This is just for the virtual machine purposes, not our outside system, the guest VM. So what I've done there is I have done these two steps, 15 and 16. Then we close the security window. Now I have already installed NetworkMiner on the virtual machine for you. There might be a new version by now, but what you can do is you can, when you do this on your own, you can visit networkminer.website and be able to download it, and you can install the free version. I think there is a professional version that is tremendously cost tremendously more. So to open the app, if the shortcut doesn't work, you're gonna go ahead and search for NetworkMiner and click on the app. Once this is open, we are gonna load, and when we see that there's a newer version, for if you do this, if you want to download, you can, but for our lab exercise, we didn't require a new version, so we're gonna click close. I'm gonna expand this so we can see the full screen on here. And to load the file, you simply click file and click open. And then we're gonna get the capture, the network capture from where we downloaded in our downloads folder inside the virtual machine. So click file, we're gonna do open, and then navigate to downloads because that's where we had it. And then the traffic analysis exercise.pcap. Okay, and click open. So it's gonna load all the traffic. And when you see this, each of this tab is gonna give you the summary of the content that it finds in this capture. Like all the hosts, those are the systems that are on the network talking at that moment in time when the traffic was captured. And it tells me that there are 54 hosts. So the number here just is the count for, like the hosts, or the count for the files, or the count for the credentials. So look at the number. So in the next part, we already loaded the PCAP file. And once you load it, you need to take a screenshot for me. And I covered this in class, but if you need to do a screenshot, you can use things like snip or, press the print screen. However, I like using the snip tool. So this comes with Windows system. So when snip opens, it's like this. You're going to click new. And then we can simply drag where we want to capture or screenshot. So here's my app that's open inside my virtual machine. go back to your lab, and then you can right click and paste it here. So we can paste it into the lab document and we can answer and then save it and submit it for our work. So I created a screenshot from my virtual machine. Then I'm going to take a look at my VM and see how many hosts. So now we can see that there are 54 hosts. And then we're going to see that there are 136 files. Okay. Now, if you don't disable the security, what will happen is your files will be a little different, right? It might hide the malicious file. So Windows Defender is going to do its job and it's going to lock away the malicious file. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to look at the credentials. So we saw that there's this many hosts. And then we know that this is this many files. And we're going to go to the credential. So on the credential, you would see that there are 4 entries. The first 2, it shows the protocol Kerberos, and Kerberos is a Windows-based protocol. This is used for authentication, and it uses encryption, right? Most of you would learn this in CIS27 and security classes. And if you're not sure what it is, you can always search for it, of course, online. So with Kerberos, the password is going to be encrypted. So you might see that it's not in plain text here. But for Windows system, the traditional protocol, the legacy protocol is the NTLM challenge for authentication. So you see the account for the username. So in the next question, it asks you, what is the username that's used for the pizza vendor? So you would look at the pizza vendor, right? Matthew.Jones, and you would see, so it asks you which account or was it using encryption? Well, it uses both encryption and non-encryption. So you got Kerberos and NTLM. Then we're going to go to the host tab and we're going to locate Matthew Jones' computer. How do I know it's Matthew Jones' computer? Well, it would tell me, right? If you scroll right a little bit more, right? Or I'm sorry, left a little bit more, and you would see the client. The 163 is the desktop. This is the computer name, and this is the username that's logged in. So I know that that would be the user, Matthew Jones, utilized that computer in this network. So with that, what I will do is I can find more information about this computer, right? Maybe it's the first one that got infected. So we're going to come back to the host and we're going to locate his IP, which is right here. So next to it, you would see the small plus sign. So you're going to click on it. And it tells you the IP address, the MAC address, the computer name, the operating systems, right? So you have to go through and answer some of the questions. What's the MAC address? What's the operating system? And then underneath it, you would see that it has the host details. So there's additional communication details and services that we can find, like hash, right? So in forensic, the more details you have about a case, or the more details that you have for your artifacts, the easier it is for you to generate the report or find additional information. So we want to screenshot as much as possible, and we want to write down and document as much as possible. So it also tells you the user account here, right? And then the version of the OS, the domain that's being connected, and so on. So once you're there, you're going to answer these questions. The NetBIOS name. So NetBIOS is an old protocol that's used by Microsoft, and it's still being integrated in the current OS. It is a way that we can locate system by name before we truly use IP or addresses. So NetBIOS, it's like a reference to that system. Sometimes it is the exact same name, sometimes it's not. And then for Kerberos, the user account and the NTLM, we saw that from the prior screen as well. So once you found the details, then we're going to go to the Files tab. And on the Files tab, these are the amount of files and the files that are coming through on the network, right? You're going to see that there's a lot of CER, which are certificate. There's some DLL. When you see this is questionable. It is a dynamic library for Windows, and the things that like to utilize DLL the most is malware. The reason why is malware like using this for the purpose of accessing driver, which controls hardware from the software level. So we want to take a look at the type of files that are coming through. So there's some INI and so on. And you can also sort them by clicking the tab. So once I am here on the Files tab, I'm gonna filter out. So for the lab, I already give you a little bit of a lead to kind of find. So here we are going to filter 45 dot 12.4.190. And this is an IP address, right? So we're going to narrow down to that one file that we kind of looked at earlier. And it's coming from this server. This is the .com. So it's questionable. So we want to take a look at this file. So the file name and the file size, and this is in byte. So 304,640 byte, and you can convert this to kilo megabyte. And then so it's coming from that server, and it's coming from the port 80. So port 80, it's just a value for a logical communication on the system, and port 80 uses HTTP. So that means that Matthew Jones, this is his system, connected to an HTTP website and downloaded a malicious file, a DLL or a .cap file. So, and this is the time that it happens. You see HTTP normal, and the destination port is this. This is the server port, and this is the client port, source. I'm sorry, this is a server port, and this is the client port over here. But so the details, here's the website or the domain that Jones got, the .cap file. So scroll right and look at the details and answer the questions. And then next, what we're going to do is we are going to right click this, and we're going to do file details. Now, sometime you run into this because Windows Defender shows this. So you're going to go ahead and click it. And what we can do is we can go to the threat. Let's go back to settings. We can search for threats. And for those of you who can't access it, it's because Windows Defender locked it away. So what we can do is we can manage the settings. And then we can add the exclusions. So earlier I was here, you would see that virus threat protection, you can add the exclusion for that file, or what you can do is you can go to protection history, and then you can expand, and what we can do is we can allow. So it tells me that it is a Trojan. And then it's also blocked. So we can click allow. So as it's a real virus, right? You see that it is a Trojan ICE. It executes command from an attacker. So after this, we'll just delete this virtual machine. Okay. So we might need to enable it in order to see. Now, if you're unable to see this part for the hash, that's okay. But hash is important. Hash is really a way that we can say that that file exists. It's the integrity of the file, and the hash tells us whether the file has changed over time, because if it's changed, the value would be different. So for example, if my file has the hash ABC123, if I haven't changed it, that value ABC123 would be the same the next time I look at the file. Now, if I go into the file and I modified it, the value, it will be different than what I would had before, which is no longer the old value. So, and the last write, it just basically tells you the last time that that file is saved. So I think it's still quarantined, but in the class on Wednesday when I did this, we were able to pull up the file details. So if Windows lock it away, you can go in and select the options and then allow it. There it is. So once you enable or restore it, it should allow you to see the SHA-256. That's the value. We would screenshot this and also record the value. It also have MD5. So these are just different type of hash algorithm, and each of them generate different values. So when you save a file on your computer, it has what is it? It has a value, a hash value. Okay. So that is done. Now put down the information, and then what we're gonna do is we're gonna click on the session tab, and then we're gonna search for Matthew Jones, which is 10.8.21.163. So we're gonna come back here, go to session 10.8.21.163. And we would see only, right, the traffic, the session that's generated. So what is a session, right? When you're logged on to your account online, right, it generates a session. It's just the time that the system, your system is communicating with the server, and the server is providing some form of services. And in that session, it's usually would be encrypted, so that way your data is protected. depending on the protocol, and you would see that here. So these are all the sessions that would be generated from or to by Matthews Jones computer. So once we have that, what we will do is we would look at any kind of suspicious. So look at that one. That was the one that we got the malware from. And then we would look at maybe this one. How do I know it is a suspicious domain? I can also search for the domain name or look up the IP address. But we're not saying that these domains are, or like the .casa, are malicious. We're just uncertain about these. So we want to write down a few of them so that way we can further investigate. So for this, I want you to go through the filtered list of the session for the system that communicate with Matthew Jones' computer and see which one, right, is questionable. And you can write down a few. So maybe this one. Or this one. And there are various, right? So you can find the information and you can put that down. So write down 3 to 4 external IP address that look suspicious. Now, once you have all of this information, you are going to outline your report. So what I did here was I put together a list of questions that you would answer based on what you have found and what you've screenshot from the steps that you have done. So for the report, we want to put down our name and the date. And for the time, we always use UTC, right? Universal time, because we don't use zone-specific time for the purpose of reporting that would be utilized in different part of the world, maybe. So for the summary, we can put down the incident date and time when it occurs, the host information, credential use. All of this information were discovered when you were doing the steps. So you need to put it together for the last question. Now, we ended the lab session here. You don't have to do part C. We will do part C in another session. And so this would conclude my lab instruction video for CIS27A. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. Thank you so much for watching my video.